evening hung thick and warm over Koreatown, the kind of heat that didn't break even after sunset. The night market on Western Avenue sprawled across 3 city blocks, a constellation of colorful tents and string lights that transformed the ordinary street into something almost magical. The air carried a symphony of scents: sizzling Korean BBQ from the food stalls, sweet hotteok dripping with honey, the sharp tang of kimchi, and the floral notes of various perfumes mingling with the crowd. Maya Kim adjusted the display of handmade jewelry on her small folding table, her fingers working automatically after months of practice. Each piece told a story. The silver necklace with the lotus pendant had taken her 3 days to perfect. The braided leather bracelets with jade stones were her mother's original design. Her mother, Maya's chest tightened at the thought, but she pushed it down like she always did. Grief was a luxury she couldn't afford, not when the medical bills still arrived monthly, not when the rent was due in 5 days. How much for the earrings? A middle-aged woman pointed at a pair of delicate danglers with small turquoise stones. $35. Maya replied with a practiced smile, switching effortlessly to Korean. Her mother had taught her that, always speak to customers in whatever language made them comfortable. It was one of the many lessons that kept her business alive. Barely. The woman nodded, pulling out her wallet, and Maya wrapped the earrings carefully in tissue paper. Around her, the night market pulsed with life. Families strolled past, children clutching colorful light-up toys. Groups of teenagers laughed loudly, taking selfies in front of the most photogenic stalls. Elderly Korean couples walked arm in arm, speaking in dialects that reminded Maya of her grandmother. "Maya ya," Mrs. Choi called from the adjacent stall where she sold traditional Korean pottery. The 70-year-old woman had become something of a surrogate grandmother to Maya over the past year. "Did you eat? I saved you some japchae." "I'm okay, Mrs. Choi. Thank you," Maya called back, though her stomach rumbled. She'd been too busy setting up to grab dinner, and the glass noodles smelled incredible. "You young people always forgetting to eat," Mrs. Choi muttered, but her eyes were warm with affection. The crowd thickened as the evening deepened. Friday nights were always the busiest, which was both blessing and curse. More customers meant more sales, but also more exhaustion. Maya's feet ached in her worn sneakers, and she'd been standing for nearly 5 hours straight. That's when she noticed him. He moved through the crowd differently than everyone else, like water flowing around stones. While others jostled and bumped, space seemed to simply open for him. He was tall, probably 6 feet, with sharp features and black hair styled in that effortlessly perfect way that probably took 20 minutes to achieve. His black suit was clearly expensive, tailored precisely to his frame, absolutely inappropriate for a casual night market. The white shirt underneath was crisp, despite the heat, unbuttoned at the collar just enough to seem deliberate rather than casual. But it wasn't his appearance that caught Maya's attention. It was the way people reacted to him. As he passed, she saw recognition flicker across faces, particularly among the older Korean vendors. Some nodded respectfully, almost fearfully. Others suddenly became very interested in their merchandise, avoiding eye contact entirely. Maya watched as he approached Mr. Park's antique stall 3 spots down from hers. The elderly man specialized in items brought over from Korea: vintage photographs, old coins, traditional ornaments that carried decades of history. Mr. Park was meticulous about his collection, knowing the provenance of each piece. The stranger picked up a small jade figurine, a dragon, intricately carved, probably from the late Joseon period. Even from her position, Maya could see it was one of Mr. Park's prized pieces. She'd heard him tell customers it was worth at least $1,500, maybe more to the right collector. Mr. Park was helping another customer, an older woman asking about a set of traditional spoons. The stranger examined the jade dragon with what seemed like genuine appreciation, turning it carefully in his hands to catch the light. Then, smoothly, almost casually, he slipped it into his jacket pocket. Maya's breath caught. She looked at Mr. Park, but he was still occupied, explaining the history of the spoons in rapid Korean. She looked back at the stranger, who was now examining another item as if nothing had happened, his expression one of mild interest. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory. "Always stand up for what's right, Maya ya. Silence makes you complicit." Before she could talk herself out of it, Maya stepped out from behind her stall. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but her feet kept moving. She had to weave through a group of teenagers murmuring "excuse me" until she reached the antique stall. "Excuse me," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. The stranger turned to look at her, and she was struck by his eyes. Dark, intelligent, and utterly unreadable. "That jade dragon you just put in your pocket, it's not yours." For a moment, the bustling market noise seemed to fade. The stranger's expression didn't change, but something shifted in the air between them, a sudden tension, like the moment before lightning strikes. "I'm sorry?" His voice was smooth, lightly accented, carrying a tone of polite confusion. He spoke in English, and his pronunciation was perfect, almost neutral, the voice of someone who'd moved between countries. "The Jade Dragon," Maya repeated, refusing to back down even as her palms began to sweat. "That's forbidden. You can't just take it." A smile played at the corner of his mouth, not reaching his eyes. "That's forbidden." He repeated her words slowly, as if tasting them. Interesting choice of words. Mr. Park finally noticed the commotion, his conversation with the elderly woman trailing off. When he saw who Maya was confronting, his weathered face went pale. "Maya, yeah, it's okay." "No, it's not okay, Mr. Park," Maya insisted, though she noticed the warning in the old man's eyes. "He took your dragon figurine, the Joseon dynasty piece." The stranger's smile widened slightly. He reached into his pocket with deliberate slowness and pulled out the jade dragon, holding it up to the light. The market lights caught the translucent green stone, making it glow. Is this what concerns you?" "It concerns me when someone steals from elderly vendors who work hard for their living," Maya said, feeling her face flush but holding her ground. Something flickered in the stranger's eyes. Surprise? Amusement? Respect? It was gone too quickly to identify. He turned to Mr. Park, who looked like he wanted to sink into the ground. "How much for this piece, sir?" the stranger asked in perfect Korean, his tone polite but carrying an undertone Maya couldn't quite identify. "Oh, no," Mr. Park stammered, waving his hands. "Please, you don't need to." "I insist." The stranger pulled out a wallet, black leather, expensive, and extracted several bills. Without counting them, he placed them on Mr. Park's table next to the cash box. Maya glimpsed the denomination. Hundreds. Multiple hundreds. Mr. Park's eyes widened. "This is too much, much too much. Consider it an apology for the misunderstanding," the stranger said smoothly. He turned back to Maya, and she found herself locked in his gaze. Up close, she could see subtle details, a small scar near his left eyebrow, the precise line of his jaw, the way his expression remained carefully neutral except for that slight, knowing smile. "You're brave," he said softly, in English again. "Foolish, perhaps, but brave." "I'm honest," Maya corrected, lifting her chin despite the tremor in her hands. "There's a difference." "Is there?" He tilted his head, studying her like she was a puzzle he'd just discovered. "In my experience, honesty and foolishness often walk hand in hand." Around them, Maya became aware of the watching eyes. The market hadn't stopped. People still shopped. Vendors still called out their wares, but in their immediate vicinity there was a bubble of attention, people pretending not to watch while absolutely watching. "Then maybe you need better experiences," Maya said, surprising herself with her boldness. The stranger laughed, a low, genuine sound that transformed his face for a moment, making him look younger, less intimidating. "Perhaps I do." He glanced at her stall a few spots away, at the jewelry displayed under the warm lights. "You're a vendor here?" "Yes." "What do you sell?" "Handmade jewelry. My mother's designs mostly. I've added some of my own." He walked toward her stall, and Maya had no choice but to follow. She noticed how people subtly moved out of his path, how Mrs. Choi suddenly became very busy rearranging her pottery, how the conversations around them lowered in volume. The stranger examined her display with what seemed like genuine interest, his eyes moving over the necklaces, bracelets, and earrings. He picked up a men's bracelet, leather braided with a single piece of obsidian stone. "Your design or your mother's?" he asked. "Mine," Maya admitted. "My mother focused more on feminine pieces. I wanted to expand the range. Smart business decision." He held the bracelet up, testing its weight. "How much?" $40. Without hesitation, he pulled out his wallet again. This time, Maya saw the contents more clearly. Several credit cards, what looked like a black American Express, more cash than anyone needed to carry to a night market. He extracted 2 crisp $50 bills and placed them on her table. "Keep the change," he said, when Maya reached for her cash box. "I don't need charity," Maya said firmly, even as her mind calculated how much that extra $10 would help. "It's not charity. It's payment for entertainment." His smile turned enigmatic. "You've given me the most interesting encounter I've had in months. Glad I could amuse you," Maya replied, unable to keep the sarcasm from her voice. He slipped the bracelet onto his wrist. It fit perfectly, the black leather and obsidian striking against his skin. "Do you know who I am?" he asked casually, as if inquiring about the weather. "Should I? Most people here do." He gestured vaguely at the surrounding stalls. "That's why they're all pretending very hard not to listen to this conversation right now." Maya glanced around and realized he was right. The usual market chatter had dimmed around them, replaced by a tense awareness. "I don't care who you are," she said, though her heart was racing. "Taking things that don't belong to you is wrong no matter who you are. Even if I intended to pay triple the asking price, you should have asked first." "Should have," he agreed, his tone suggesting he rarely concerned himself with what he should do. He reached into his jacket, Maya tensed, but he only pulled out a business card, black with silver lettering, minimalist design. He placed it carefully on her table next to her displayed earrings. Minjun Park, he said, introducing himself finally. And you are? Maya hesitated. Something told her giving this man her name was dangerous. Like feeding a wild animal, it created connection, familiarity, expectation, but silence seemed even more dangerous somehow. Maya Kim, he repeated as if memorizing it. You have courage, Maya Kim. That's rare. He leaned in slightly and Maya caught his scent. Expensive cologne, something woody and complex, completely out of place at a night market. His voice dropped lower, meant only for her ears. That's forbidden, you said, but rules. He paused, his dark eyes holding hers. Rules are only meaningful if everyone agrees to follow them. And you don't? His smile turned sharp, dangerous. I make my own rules. Maya's breath caught. There was something predatory in that smile, something that sent warning signals through her entire nervous system. But there was also something magnetic, compelling, like standing too close to a cliff edge and feeling the simultaneous pull of fear and fascination. That must be lonely, she said quietly. For just a moment his carefully constructed expression cracked, revealing something raw underneath. Surprise, perhaps, or recognition. Then it was gone, replaced by that enigmatic smile. More than you know, he said softly, then louder, switching back to his casual tone. I have a feeling we'll see each other again, Maya Kim. This is a big city. Not that big, especially in Koreatown. He stepped back, adjusting his jacket. Especially for people who interest me. I don't want to interest you. Then you shouldn't have been so memorably brave. He turned to leave, then paused, looking back over his shoulder. Oh, and Maya Kim, that jade dragon I stole? Mr. Park offered it to me last week. I was simply testing whether anyone here still had the courage to challenge me. His smile widened. Thank you for proving that at least one person does. Before Maya could respond, he walked away, melting into the night market crowd. But this time, Maya noticed details she'd missed before. The way two men in casual clothes followed at a discreet distance. The way a sleek black car idled at the curb just beyond the market's edge. The way other vendors visibly relaxed once he was out of sight. Her hands were shaking. She sat down hard on her folding chair, her legs suddenly unable to support her weight. Maya, ya. Mrs. Choi's voice was urgent as the older woman hurried over. Do you know who that was? He said his name was Minjun Park. Mrs. Choi's face went even paler. I goo, child. That man, he's not someone to challenge. His family, they're involved in difficult business. Import-export, they say, but everyone knows it's more than that. She lowered her voice to a whisper. People who cross his family, they have problems. Their businesses suddenly fail, or they have to leave the city. You understand? Maya's mouth went dry. I didn't know. Of course you didn't. You're a good girl. You see someone doing wrong, you speak up. But Maya, yeah. Mrs. Choi gripped her hand tightly. With men like that, sometimes it's better to look away. Maya looked down at the business card on her table. Black card, silver lettering. Just a name, a phone number, and a simple line. Import-export consulting. Nothing overtly threatening. Nothing obviously criminal. But combined with Mrs. Choi's warning, with the way people had reacted to him, it painted a clear picture. She'd just confronted a criminal, possibly a dangerous one, and he'd seemed amused, interested. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from her brother Daniel. Can you send money for textbooks? Need $200 by Monday. Maya closed her eyes, thinking of the bills stacked on her desk at home, the rent due in 5 days, the payment plan for her mother's medical debt. She looked at the business card again. Minjun Park. Whatever he was, he clearly had money. More money than she'd likely ever see. No, she pushed the thought away immediately. There were lines you didn't cross, no matter how desperate you were. Her mother had taught her that. I'll be careful, Mrs. Choi, Maya promised, slipping the business card into her pocket without really knowing why she kept it. The night market continued around them, the moment already fading into the background noise of commerce and conversation. But Maya couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted, like a door had opened that she couldn't fully close again. As she sold a pair of earrings to a young couple, as she packed up her merchandise at the end of the night, as she counted her earnings with a mixture of relief and disappointment, Maya kept thinking about Minjun Park's last words, then watch me sin again. It sounded like a promise, or maybe a warning. Maya couldn't stop thinking about the business card. 3 days had passed since the night market encounter, and the small black rectangle sat on her desk at home like a question mark she couldn't answer. She'd picked it up at least a dozen times, running her thumb over the embossed silver lettering. Minjun Park, Import-Export Consulting. It was Tuesday afternoon, and her tiny studio apartment in a converted building on Olympic Boulevard felt even smaller than usual. Sunlight streamed through the single window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air and highlighting the stack of bills she'd been avoiding all morning. The medical debt payment notice sat on top, $847 due by Friday. Then there was rent, $400. Her phone bill already overdue. The vendor permit renewal for the night market, $300. Maya's laptop sat open on her small kitchen table, where she'd been eating instant ramen while staring at search results. She'd told herself she was just being cautious, that researching Minjun Park was simple due diligence after encountering someone potentially dangerous. But as she scrolled through the results, Maya knew she was lying to herself. Curiosity burned through her like fever. The official information was sparse but impressive. Park Enterprises, headquartered in a sleek building in downtown LA, specialized in import-export services between the United States and South Korea. The company website was professional, minimalist, showing images of shipping containers, business handshakes, modern office spaces. Minjun Park was listed as CEO. There were photos, him in expensive suits at business conferences, shaking hands with what appeared to be legitimate businessmen, attending charity galas. But the unofficial information told a different story. Maya found threads on Korean community forums, posts quickly deleted but captured in screenshots, whispered allegations about the Park family's connections to organized crime networks operating between Los Angeles and Seoul, stories about businesses that refused to pay protection fees, suddenly facing mysterious difficulties, health code violations, supplier problems, break-ins, nothing concrete, nothing provable, but the pattern was unmistakable. One forum post, translated from Korean, stuck with her. The Park family doesn't make threats, they make examples. Maya closed her laptop with shaking hands. What had she been thinking, challenging someone like that? Mrs. Choi was right. She should have looked away, stayed silent, protected herself. Her phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. Hey sis, any luck with that textbook money? Professor says I need them by tomorrow or I'll fall behind. Maya stared at her bank account balance on her phone. $634. Not enough. It was never enough. She grabbed her jacket and keys. The night market wouldn't open for hours, but she needed to get out of the apartment, away from the bills and the business card and the weight of impossible choices. The coffee shop on Vermont Avenue was one of those trendy Korean cafes that had popped up everywhere in Koreatown over the past few years. All industrial chic design, Edison bulbs, and artisanal drinks that cost more than Maya usually allowed herself to spend. But she needed the escape, needed to sit somewhere that didn't smell like instant ramen and stress. She ordered an iced Americano and found a corner table, pulling out her sketch pad. Designing new jewelry pieces usually helped clear her mind. She was working on a concept for a necklace, delicate silver chain with small gemstone drops, when a shadow fell across her table. Maya Kim, her head snapped up. Minjun Park stood beside her table, holding his own coffee, something elaborate with foam art on top. He wore dark jeans and a simple black button-down today, less formal than the suit, but somehow equally commanding. The obsidian bracelet she'd made sat on his wrist. Are you following me? The words came out sharper than Maya intended, her heart rate spiking. Following? His eyebrow raised. This is my cafe. I own the building. He gestured vaguely upward. I come here 3 times a week. Same table usually, but you're sitting in it. Maya glanced around and realized the baristas were watching them with poorly concealed interest. One young woman whispered to her coworker behind the counter. I can move, Maya said, starting to gather her things. Don't. Minjun pulled out the chair across from her and sat without waiting for invitation. I prefer the company. Up close, in daylight, Maya noticed details she'd missed at the night market. Fine lines at the corners of his eyes that suggested he was older than she'd initially thought, mid-30s maybe. A thin scar along his jawline, barely visible. The way his hands moved with careful precision as he set down his coffee. What are you working on? He nodded at her sketch pad. Maya's instinct was to close it, to keep her designs private, but something about his genuine curiosity made her pause. A new necklace design, for the market. May I? She turned the sketch pad so he could see. His dark eyes studied her drawings with unexpected focus, taking in the details she'd labored over, the way the gemstones would catch light, the delicate balance of the chain weight. You have talent, he said finally. Real talent. Why are you selling at night markets instead of proper galleries or boutiques? Galleries want established names. Boutiques want bulk orders I can't afford to produce. Maya heard the defensive edge in her voice. The night market lets me sell directly to people who appreciate handmade work, and barely keeps you afloat, Minjun said quietly. Maya's spine stiffened. How would you know? I pay attention. He took a sip of his coffee. You work every Friday and Saturday night. You're there from setup to teardown, never take breaks, eat maybe once during the entire evening. You wear the same 3 outfits rotated through the weeks. Your jewelry is beautiful, but you use materials that cost less. silver instead of gold, semi-precious stones instead of precious ones. You're talented enough for better, which means you can't afford better. The accuracy of his observations felt like being stripped naked. Maya's face burned. That's incredibly invasive. It's observant. There's a difference. Is there? Maya threw his own words from the night market back at him. In my experience, observation and invasion often walk hand in hand. His lips curved into a smile. Not the sharp, dangerous one from before, but something softer. Almost appreciative. Touché. They sat in silence for a moment. The cafe hummed with activity around them. The hiss of the espresso machine, Korean indie music playing softly overhead, the chatter of other customers. But their corner felt separate somehow, isolated in a bubble of tension. "Why are you here?" Maya asked finally. "Really here at my table talking to me? People like you don't waste time on people like me without reason. People like me," Minjun repeated, his tone unreadable. "What kind of person do you think I am? The kind who has better things to do than drink coffee with struggling jewelry vendors. Maybe I'm exactly where I want to be." "Why?" He leaned back in his chair, studying her with that intense focus that made Maya feel simultaneously exposed and seen. "Because you're the first person in 5 years who's looked me in the eye and told me I was wrong. The first person who didn't know my name and wasn't afraid. The first person who saw me do something questionable and called me out on it, despite every instinct probably screaming at you to stay silent. That was foolish," Maya admitted, echoing his words from the night market. "That was honest," he corrected. "Like you said, there's a difference." He set down his coffee cup with deliberate care. "I've spent the past 3 days thinking about that moment. About you. About what kind of person risks confronting a stranger over a jade dragon they have no stake in. A person who believes in doing what's right, even when it's dangerous? Especially then." Something shifted in Minjun's expression. A crack in that carefully maintained facade, revealing something raw and almost lonely underneath. "I used to believe that," he said quietly, "when I was younger. Before I learned that doing what's right often means getting crushed by people willing to do what's effective." Maya recognized the bitterness in his voice. It reminded her of her own thoughts during those long nights sitting beside her mother's hospital bed, watching the bills pile up, watching the insurance company find new reasons to deny coverage, watching the right thing, working honestly, playing by the rules, lead to nothing but debt and exhaustion. "I'm sorry," she said, surprising herself. "Whatever happened to make you stop believing that?" Minjun's eyes widened slightly, as if her sympathy was the last thing he'd expected. "Don't apologize for me, Maya Kim. I made my choices with full awareness of what they'd cost. That doesn't mean those costs weren't painful." "No," he agreed softly. "It doesn't." The moment stretched between them, fragile and strange. Then Minjun seemed to shake himself, his expression shifting back to something more controlled. "I have a business proposition for you." Maya's guard snapped back up immediately. "I'm not interested. You haven't heard it yet. I don't need to. Whatever you're offering comes with strings attached." "Smart," Minjun acknowledged. "But let me propose it anyway. I have connections with several high-end boutiques in Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco, places that would showcase your jewelry properly, price it according to its actual value, connect you with clients who can afford custom pieces. I could make introductions. No investment required from you, no debt to pay back." It was everything Maya had dreamed of, the kind of opportunity that could transform her struggling business into something sustainable, maybe even successful. She could pay off the medical bills, help Daniel with school, maybe finally breathe without calculating every dollar. "What would you want in return?" she asked carefully. "Nothing. Nobody offers something for nothing, especially not people like—" She stopped herself. "People like me," Minjun finished. His smile was sardonic. "You're right, but consider it professional interest. I recognize talent when I see it. I have resources you need. Connecting the two benefits us both. How does it benefit you? Maybe I enjoy watching talented people succeed. Maybe I want to prove I'm capable of doing something good. Maybe," he paused, his eyes holding hers, "I want you to think better of me than your internet research suggests you should." Maya's breath caught. "How did you think I don't monitor searches for my name?" His tone was matter of fact, not threatening. "Anyone digging into Park Enterprises gets flagged. It's basic security." "That's terrifying." "That's necessary. In my world, information is protection." He leaned forward slightly. "But I'm not angry that you researched me. I'd be disappointed if you hadn't. It shows intelligence, caution, qualities I respect." "I can't accept your help," Maya said firmly, even as her mind screamed at her to reconsider. "I don't know what game you're playing, but I won't be part of it." "It's not a game." "Then what is it?" Minjun was quiet for a long moment, his fingers tracing the rim of his coffee cup. When he spoke, his voice was low, almost vulnerable. "Have you ever been so surrounded by darkness that you forget what light looks like, and then suddenly, unexpectedly, you see someone who reminds you it still exists?" He looked up at her. "That's what you did at the night market. You reminded me that people still exist who care about right and wrong, even when it costs them something. I want to preserve that, help it thrive maybe. The sincerity in his voice made Maya's chest tight. This wasn't the smooth businessman or the intimidating figure from the night market. This was something genuine, and that made it more dangerous than any threat could be. I need to go, Maya said, standing abruptly. Thank you for the conversation, but I can't be whatever you're looking for. I'm sorry. She gathered her sketch pad and bag, but Minjun's voice stopped her before she reached the door. The offer stands, Maya Kim. When you're ready. A pause. If you're ever in trouble, call the number on that card. Anytime, day or night. No strings. No obligations, just call. Maya didn't trust herself to respond. She pushed through the cafe door into the bright afternoon, her heart hammering against her ribs. Friday night, the night market. Maya had spent 3 days trying to forget the conversation in the cafe, trying to focus on her work, trying to ignore the growing pile of bills on her desk. Daniel had borrowed the textbook money from a friend. Don't worry about it, sis, I'll figure it out, which only made Maya feel worse. The market was unusually crowded tonight. A local K-pop group was performing on a small stage at the West End, drawing huge crowds. Maya's stall was positioned near the food vendors, and the smell of Korean fried chicken and tteokbokki made her stomach growl. She'd skipped lunch again. Maya, Mrs. Choi called out. Are you feeling okay? You look tired. I'm fine, Mrs. Choi. Just didn't sleep well. That was an understatement. She'd spent 3 nights replaying the cafe conversation, wrestling with temptation and principle. Minjun's offer was everything she needed, but accepting help from someone involved in organized crime felt like selling a piece of her soul. The evening progressed normally until around 9 o'clock. 3 men approached her stall, young, early 20s, wearing matching black and red jackets despite the warm evening. They moved with the aggressive swagger of people looking for trouble. Maya's instincts screamed warning. Nice jewelry, the leader said, his accent suggesting he'd grown up in LA's Korean community. He picked up one of her necklaces without asking, letting it dangle carelessly from his fingers. How much? $75, Maya said, keeping her voice steady despite her racing heart. 75? He laughed, and his friends joined in. That's expensive for something that'll probably break in a week. I guarantee all my pieces for 6 months. If there's any defect in craftsmanship, he mimicked her tone mockingly. Listen to this. Sounds like someone who thinks they're better than everyone else. Maya's hands clenched under her table. Around them, other vendors were noticing the confrontation, but nobody intervened. Mrs. Choi looked worried but stayed at her stall, elderly and unable to help. If you're not interested in purchasing anything, I'd appreciate it if you moved along, Maya said as firmly as she could manage. Other customers are waiting. There were no other customers waiting. Everyone was giving her stall a wide berth now. The leader's expression hardened. You know who runs protection in this market? Maya's blood ran cold. I pay my vendor fees to the market organizers. Market organizers? He interrupted. That's cute, but everybody knows the real fee structure around here. He leaned over her table, invading her space. Except maybe you. New vendors sometimes need education. I'm not new. I've been here for over a year. Yeah? He picked up another necklace, examined it, then deliberately let it drop. The delicate chain broke against the pavement, gemstones scattering. Oops! Rage flooded through Maya, hot and overwhelming. That was 2 weeks of work. Send me a bill, he said with a cold smile. Or better yet, consider it a lesson. Things in this market, things break. Accidents happen, unless people have the right protection. I don't need your protection. Everyone needs protection. He swept his hand across her display table. Jewelry flew everywhere. Necklaces, bracelets, earrings hitting the ground. Some breaking, others rolling into the crowd. Hours and hours of work, destroyed in seconds. Maya lunged forward without thinking, but one of his friends grabbed her arm, holding her back. Not rough enough to leave marks, but firm enough to make the point. Don't, the leader said, his voice dropping to something more dangerous. You're making this harder than it needs to be. $500 a month. That's the market rate. Keeps accidents from happening, keeps you safe. Let her go. The voice came from behind the 3 men, and Maya recognized it instantly. Minjun Park stood there, flanked by 2 men in dark suits. He looked casual, hands in his pockets, expression calm, but there was something in his stance that radiated coiled danger. The 3 young men turned, and Maya saw recognition flash across their faces, followed immediately by fear. Mr. Park, the leader stammered. We didn't know. We weren't told. Told what? Minjun's voice was soft, almost pleasant. That this vendor is under my protection. Should you need to be told that before you know not to destroy someone's livelihood? It was, collect her jewelry, every piece, carefully. Minjun's tone didn't rise, didn't sharpen, but somehow became infinitely more threatening. If a single item is damaged further while you're picking it up, we'll have a different conversation, one you won't enjoy. The 3 men scrambled to obey, dropping to their knees and gathering scattered jewelry with shaking hands. Maya stood frozen, her arm still tingling where she'd been grabbed, her mind trying to process what was happening. Within minutes, her jewelry was piled carefully, almost reverently, back on her table. The three men stood at attention, awaiting Minjun's dismissal. "This vendor is off limits," Minjun said quietly. "Spread that information. Anyone who didn't get the message answers to me personally. Understood?" "Yes, Mr. Park. Understood. We're sorry. We didn't go." They fled into the crowd like water down a drain. The market noise, which had dimmed during the confrontation, slowly returned to normal levels. Vendors who'd been watching pretended suddenly to be very busy with their merchandise. Minjun turned to Maya, his expression softening. "Are you hurt?" "No," Maya managed, though her voice shook. What just happened?" "You were being extorted. I stopped it." "By claiming I'm under your protection?" "Yes." "Without asking me? Would you have preferred I let them continue?" Minjun's tone was reasonable, which somehow made it worse. Maya looked at her jewelry, thought about the broken necklace, the fear she'd felt, the helplessness. Then she thought about what accepting Minjun's protection meant, the invisible chains it wrapped around her. "I need you to leave," she said quietly. Minjun's expression flickered with something. Disappointment? Hurt? "Maya, please." She looked up at him, fighting tears of frustration and anger and fear. "You just painted a target on my back. Those men, whoever they work for, they'll report back that I'm connected to you. That makes me part of your world. And I never agreed to that. I was protecting you. I didn't ask for your protection. Don't you understand? I can't be in your debt, can't be part of whatever empire you've built. Because people in your world," her voice cracked, "they don't get to have normal lives. They don't get to build honest businesses or sleep peacefully or make choices without calculating which crime family they're offending." The words hung between them, raw and painful. Minjun's carefully controlled expression cracked completely, and for a moment Maya saw genuine anguish in his eyes. "You think I don't know that?" he said softly. "You think I don't understand exactly what I'm offering you? And what it costs?" He stepped closer, and Maya could see the tension in his jaw, the weight he carried. "I was born into this world, Maya. I didn't choose it. Didn't want it. But once you're in, there's no clean exit. You survive by being smarter and stronger than everyone trying to destroy you. And sometimes," his voice dropped to barely a whisper, "sometimes you meet someone who reminds you what you gave up, and you just want to protect that, even if they don't want your protection." Maya's heart ached at the raw honesty in his words. "Minjun, I'll leave," he said, stepping back. "But those men won't come back, and neither will anyone else looking to extort you. That part is done whether you like it or not. I can't undo what happened here tonight." He looked at her, and Maya saw everything he wasn't saying written in his expression. Longing, regret, resignation. "I'm sorry I complicated your life. That was never my intention." He turned to leave, his two associates following. Maya watched him go, watched the crowd part for him, watched him disappear into the night market's maze of lights and people. Her hands were still shaking. She looked down at her jewelry display, at the pieces that had been scattered and collected, at the broken necklace still lying near her foot. Mrs. Choi appeared beside her, moving faster than Maya thought possible for a woman her age. "Aigu, child. Are you all right?" "I don't know," Maya admitted. "Mrs. Choi, what have I done?" "You stood up for yourself. That's brave." The older woman squeezed her hand. "But Maya, yeah, that man, he's dangerous, but not in the way you think. Those young boys, they're dangerous because they're cruel. But Minjun Park, he's dangerous because he cares. And when men like that care about someone, it puts that person in a different kind of danger, the kind that changes everything." Maya thought about Minjun's eyes when he'd said he wanted to protect what reminded him of light. She thought about the careful way he'd handled her sketch pad in the cafe, the genuine appreciation for her work, the loneliness behind his controlled facade. She thought about how she'd felt seen by him in a way nobody had seen her since her mother died. And she thought about how terrifying that was, because Mrs. Choi was right. Everything had changed. The question was whether Maya could survive what came next. 2 weeks passed in uneasy silence. Maya threw herself into her work with almost manic intensity, creating new pieces late into the night in her cramped apartment. The night market had become both sanctuary and reminder. No one had bothered her since the confrontation, but she felt the weight of invisible eyes watching, evaluating, reporting back to whoever cared about such things. Minjun Park hadn't returned. Maya told herself she was relieved. It was a Wednesday afternoon when her phone rang with Daniel's name flashing on the screen. Her 20-year-old brother rarely called during the day. He should have been in class at UCLA working toward the economics degree their mother had dreamed he'd achieve. "Daniel? Is everything okay?" Silence. Then, "Maya, I messed up." His voice was tight with fear. "I really messed up." Maya's stomach dropped. "What happened? Where are you?" "I'm at the apartment. Can you come? Please. I don't know what to do." She was out the door within minutes, her jewelry work abandoned on the table. Daniel lived in a shared apartment near campus with 2 roommates, or at least he was supposed to. When Maya arrived, The place was empty except for her brother, who sat on the worn couch with his head in his hands. He looked terrible. His normally neat appearance was disheveled, his eyes red-rimmed with exhaustion or tears or both. A bruise was forming along his left cheekbone. "Daniel!" Maya rushed to him, cupping his face to examine the injury. "What happened? Who did this?" "It's complicated." He pulled away from her touch, shame written across his features. "You're going to be so disappointed in me. I could never be disappointed in you. Tell me what's going on." The story came out in broken fragments. The textbooks he'd needed. That was real, but there were other expenses: lab fees, study materials, rent that kept increasing. He'd taken a part-time job, but it wasn't enough. The student loans had limits. Their mother's medical bills had consumed what little savings the family had. "There was this guy in my macro-econ class," Daniel said, his voice hollow. "Johnny Park. No relation to that other Park family, different spelling. He always had money. Nice clothes, new phone. I asked him how he managed it, and he said he did some work on the side. Easy work, he said. Just delivering packages sometimes, being present at certain meetings. Good money." Maya's blood ran cold. "Daniel, no. Please tell me you didn't." "I didn't know." Her brother's voice cracked. "I swear, Maya, I thought it was just some rich kid stuff. Maybe moving products for his family's business or something. I never asked questions because I didn't want to know. I just needed the money." "How long?" 4 months. He looked up at her with devastated eyes. "I made almost $6,000. I sent you money for the medical bills. Told you I got a bonus at my campus job. Remember?" Maya remembered. She'd been so grateful, so relieved to make a payment that actually made a dent in the debt. "Oh, Daniel, last week Johnny asked me to make a delivery in Koreatown. Said it was important. Would pay $1,000. I said yes." He stood up, pacing like a caged animal. "But something went wrong. There were these other guys waiting. And they took the package. They knew I was coming, Maya. They knew exactly when and where. It was a setup. What was in the package? I don't know. I never looked. Johnny's people say I'm responsible for the loss. They want $20,000 or," his voice broke completely, "or they said they'd make an example. They mentioned you, Maya. They know where you work, where you live. They said families pay for betrayal." Maya's apartment walls seemed to close in around her. $20,000 might as well have been 20 million. And the threat to her, the casual mention of making her suffer for Daniel's mistake, that was how these organizations operated. She'd read enough, heard enough stories from vendors at the night market. "We need to go to the police," Maya said, though the words felt hollow even as she spoke them. "The police?" Daniel laughed bitterly. "Maya, these aren't street dealers. This is organized. Johnny's connected to the West Side crew. They have lawyers, legitimate business fronts, and the guys who took the package, they're from a rival group. If I talk to police, I'm dead from one side or the other. If I don't pay, we're both in danger. There has to be another way." "There isn't." Daniel grabbed her shoulders and she saw real terror in his eyes. "I checked every option. I tried to get a loan, asked everyone I knew. Nobody has that kind of money and no legitimate lender will give it to a college student with no credit. Maya, I'm so sorry. I was trying to help. Trying to take pressure off you, and instead I made everything worse." Maya pulled her brother into a hug, feeling him shake against her. 20 years old and caught in something that would crush him. Their mother had worked so hard to give them better lives, to keep them away from exactly this kind of danger. And now, the business card, black with silver lettering, sitting in her wallet where she'd carried it for 2 weeks without fully understanding why. "I might know someone who can help," Maya heard herself say. Daniel pulled back. "Who?" "Someone with resources. Someone who," she struggled for words, "someone who operates in that world." Understanding dawned on her brother's face, followed by horror. "No, Maya, no, you can't get involved with people like that because of me. I'll figure something out. You'll what? Drop out of school and spend the next 10 years working minimum wage trying to scrape together money you don't have, while looking over your shoulder every day waiting for them to decide they're tired of waiting?" Maya's voice was fierce. "Mom died trying to give you a future, Daniel. I'm not letting that be for nothing. This isn't your burden. You're my brother. That makes it my burden." She pulled out her phone, staring at the contact information she'd saved despite telling herself she'd never use it. "Let me make a call." Minjun answered on the second ring. "Maya Kim." Not a question. A statement. He'd saved her number too then. "I didn't expect to hear from you. I need help." The words felt like swallowing glass. "Not for me. For my brother. He's in trouble. And I don't know who else to call." A pause. "Where are you?" She gave him Daniel's address. "Can you come here, please? I can't explain over the phone. I'll be there in 20 minutes. No questions, no hesitation." "Maya, lock the doors. Don't open them for anyone until I arrive." The line went dead. Maya looked at her brother, who was staring at her with a mixture of hope and dread. "Who was that?" "Someone who can help," Maya said. "But Daniel, this is going to cost us. People like him don't give help for free, no matter what they say." "I know." Her brother's voice was small, defeated. "I'm sorry I dragged you into this. We're family. We face things together." They waited in tense silence. Maya checked the door locks twice, peered out the window at the quiet street below. Every car that passed made her heart jump. Every footstep in the hallway outside sent adrenaline spiking through her system. Exactly 19 minutes later, there was a knock. 3 sharp raps, then 2 more. Maya looked through the peephole and saw Minjun Park alone, wearing a dark suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. She opened the door. He stepped inside, his eyes immediately scanning the apartment. Exits, windows, sightlines, professional assessment completed in seconds. Then his gaze landed on Daniel, specifically on the bruise marking his face. "Your brother?" Minjun asked. "Yes, Daniel. This is Minjun Park. Mr. Park, this is my brother Daniel." Daniel stood awkwardly, clearly uncertain whether to bow or shake hands or what protocol existed for meeting someone like Minjun. He settled for a nervous nod. "Thank you for coming." Minjun's expression softened slightly. "Sit down, both of you. Tell me everything." They did. Daniel's story came out more coherently this time. The initial job offer, the months of deliveries, the setup that went wrong. Minjun listened without interrupting, his face impassive, but his eyes sharp, calculating. "Johnny Park," he said when Daniel finished. "Korean-American, mid-20s, UCLA graduate, now recruiting on campus. Works for the West Side crew, specifically under Tommy Cho's operation." "You know him?" Maya asked. "I know of his organization. They operate primarily on the west side of LA, trafficking in various goods, running protection schemes, money laundering through legitimate businesses." Minjun's tone was clinical, professional. "The people who intercepted your delivery, describe them." Daniel did, providing details about the 3 men who'd taken the package. Minjun's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Chen's people," he said quietly. "This wasn't random, Daniel. This was deliberate. Someone set you up to create a conflict between 2 organizations or to test their security or—" He stopped, his expression darkening. "Or to get to me." "To you?" Maya's confusion must have shown on her face. Minjun looked at her and she saw the weight of realization in his eyes. "The night market incident 2 weeks ago. It sent a message through the community that you're under my protection. If someone wanted to pressure me, draw me into a confrontation, or simply cause me problems, targeting your family would be an efficient method." The room seemed to tilt. "You're saying Daniel's in danger because of me? Because I talked to you?" "I'm saying the situation is more complicated than a college student making poor choices." Minjun stood, pacing to the window. "The timing is too convenient. 4 months of successful deliveries, then suddenly a setup precisely when everyone in Koreatown knows about my interest in your family." Daniel's face had gone pale. "So this is my fault, but also not my fault?" "It's complicated," Minjun said, "which is often how these situations are designed to be. Creates confusion, prevents clear response." He turned back to them. "The $20,000 they're demanding, that's not about the package. That's about humiliation, about making you grovel and proving they can reach into my sphere of influence. Can you help him?" Maya's voice came out smaller than she intended. Minjun's eyes met hers, and she saw the answer before he spoke. "Yes, but there will be conditions." "What conditions?" He moved to sit across from them, and Maya was struck by how carefully he positioned himself, close enough to speak quietly, far enough to not feel threatening. "I can make this go away. I can ensure neither Tommy Cho's people nor Chen's organization touches Daniel. I can guarantee his safety and yours. In exchange for, you accept my protection publicly. No more pretending we don't know each other. No more avoiding me at the market, no more denying the connection." His voice was gentle but firm. "You become someone visibly under my umbrella. That means dining at my restaurants, attending events with me occasionally, being seen in my company. It means everyone in this community knows unambiguously that harming you or your brother brings consequences." Maya's stomach nodded. "You're asking me to become your, what? Your girlfriend? My associate? My connection? The specific label doesn't matter. The visibility does." Minjun leaned forward slightly. "I understand what I'm asking, Maya. I understand it compromises everything you've been trying to avoid. But your brother's situation requires a clear, unambiguous response. Half measures will only invite more testing, more danger. And if I refuse, then I'll still help Daniel. I'll pay the $20,000, arrange for his protection, ensure he can finish school safely." Minjun's voice was quiet. "But it will be temporary. Without the public connection, without the clear message, there will always be someone testing boundaries, seeing what they can get away with. You'll spend the rest of your lives looking over your shoulders." Daniel started to speak, but Maya cut him off with a gesture. She needed to think, needed to process the impossible choice being offered. Accept Minjun's protection and enter his world completely. Become someone associated with organized crime, watched by law enforcement, marked by that connection forever. Or refuse and live with perpetual danger, knowing any moment someone might decide to test the limits again. If I agree, Maya said carefully, what exactly would you expect from me? Be specific. Honesty, loyalty, not to my business, but to me personally. Your presence at specific events where being seen together serves both our interests. Your cooperation if my enemies try to use you as leverage against me, which they will. He held her gaze. I won't ask you to do anything illegal. I won't involve you in my business operations. I won't compromise your integrity more than the association itself already does. But I need to know you won't betray me to law enforcement or rivals. You're asking me to choose you over the law. I'm asking you to choose your brother's life over abstract principles. His words were harsh, but his tone remained gentle. I understand what that costs. I wouldn't ask if there were better options. Maya looked at Daniel, her baby brother, who'd tried to help and ended up trapped, who was terrified and ashamed and desperate. She thought about their mother, who'd worked 2 jobs to keep them fed and housed, who'd gone without medication to pay for Daniel's school supplies, who'd died believing her children would have better lives than she'd had. I need guarantees, Maya said. I need to know Daniel is completely protected, that he can finish school, get a normal job, live a normal life without this hanging over him. You have my word. Your word. Maya laughed bitterly. Forgive me if I need something more concrete than the word of someone who admits he operates outside the law. Minjun's expression flickered with something that might have been respect. Fair. I'll arrange for Daniel to be placed on a protected list that circulates through all the major organizations in LA. Anyone touching him faces collective retaliation. I'll also set up a trust fund for his remaining college expenses. Completely legal, traceable to a legitimate scholarship program I fund. When he graduates, I'll help him find employment outside of California if he wants a clean break. And me, you continue your jewelry business. I'll make the boutique introductions I offered before, legitimate opportunities with no strings beyond our personal arrangement. You maintain your integrity, your artistic vision, your independence. The only difference is you're publicly known to be someone I care about. Someone I care about. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning neither of them wanted to examine too closely. How long? Maya asked. How long would I have to maintain this arrangement? Minjun was quiet for a moment. I don't know. Until it's clear the message has been received. Until you're established enough in your business that you have your own reputation protecting you. Until, he stopped, seeming to reconsider his words. Until you feel safe without me. It was the answer of someone who didn't expect that day to come. Someone who was offering indefinite protection because he believed indefinite danger was the reality. Maya looked at her brother again, saw the hope and guilt warring in his expression. Thought about the future he deserved versus the future she'd be condemning herself to. Okay, she said quietly. I agree to your terms. Maya. No, Daniel started. It's done, Daniel. She kept her eyes on Minjun. You protect my brother completely. You help him build a clean life, and I become whatever you need me to be publicly. Minjun's expression was unreadable. You understand there's no going back from this? Once you're publicly connected to me, that association stays with you. I understand. He nodded slowly, then pulled out his phone. I'm making calls now. By tomorrow morning, Daniel will be protected. The debt will be cleared. Consider it done. As Minjun stepped into the next room to make his calls, Daniel grabbed Maya's hand. You shouldn't have done this for me. You're my brother. Of course I should have. Mom would be so disappointed. Mom would do exactly what I'm doing. Maya squeezed his hand fiercely. She'd walk into fire for us. This is just a different kind of fire. Through the doorway, Maya could hear Minjun's voice. Low and authoritative, speaking in Korean to someone on the other end. She couldn't make out the specific words, but the tone was unmistakable. Commands being given, arrangements being made, power being exercised. She'd just placed herself under the protection of that power, bound herself to it. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, Maya felt a strange calm settling over her shoulders. She'd made her choice. There was a kind of peace in that, even if the choice itself was impossible. Minjun returned after several calls. It's handled. Daniel, you'll receive confirmation by tomorrow that your debt is cleared. I'm also arranging a security detail for you. Discreet. You won't notice them, but they'll ensure nobody approaches you with problems. Thank you, Daniel said, his voice thick with emotion. I don't know how to repay. Take care of your sister. Minjun's voice was firm. Finish school. Build the life she's sacrificing her peace for. That's repayment enough. He turned to Maya. I need you to come with me. Now. We need to be seen together tonight. Make the connection public immediately. The sooner the message spreads, the safer you both are. Maya stood on shaking legs. Where? Dinner. One of my restaurants in Koreatown. High profile enough that our presence together will be noted and reported. He softened slightly. I know this is overwhelming, but the faster we establish the narrative, the faster everyone understands the boundaries. Maya grabbed her jacket, hugged her brother tightly. Call me tomorrow. Let me know you're okay. I should be saying that to you, Daniel whispered. We're both going to be okay, Maya said, trying to believe it. We have to be. As she followed Minjun out to his car, a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than she'd earn in 5 years. Maya felt the weight of her decision settling into her bones. She was crossing a line she'd sworn never to cross, entering a world she'd desperately tried to avoid, but she was doing it for family, and somehow that made it bearable. Min-jun held the car door open for her, his expression unreadable in the evening light. "Are you ready?" Maya took a deep breath. "No, but let's go anyway." The door closed with a solid, expensive sound, sealing her into this new reality. Through the tinted window, she watched Daniel standing in the doorway of his apartment building, looking smaller and more vulnerable than she'd ever seen him. Then the car pulled away, carrying her toward whatever came next. The restaurant was exactly as high profile as Min-jun had promised, an upscale Korean establishment in the heart of Koreatown, the kind of place where business deals were made and alliances were formed. The hostess recognized Min-jun immediately, her professional smile brightening with genuine warmth as she led them to a private corner table. Maya felt every eye in the restaurant follow their progress, subtle glances over wine glasses, conversations that paused just slightly as they passed. By tomorrow, everyone would know. Maya Kim, the jewelry vendor from the night market, dining with Min-jun Park. "Relax," Min-jun said quietly once they were seated. "You look like you're walking to your own execution, aren't I?" He didn't answer, which was answer enough. The evening passed in a surreal blur. Min-jun ordered for both of them in Korean. Traditional dishes, beautifully presented, probably delicious, though Maya barely tasted anything. They talked, but she couldn't later remember about what. Surface conversations, meaningless small talk, the performance of two people enjoying dinner together. But underneath, Maya felt the weight of what was happening. Every moment they sat together, every smile she managed, every time Min-jun's hand brushed hers across the table, it was all cement hardening around her, fixing her in place in his world. As they were finishing dessert, Min-jun's expression changed slightly. Maya followed his gaze and saw two men in suits approaching their table. They didn't look like restaurant staff or other diners. They looked like law enforcement. "Mr. Park," the older of the two men said, flashing a badge. "FBI, Agent Morrison. This is Agent Chen. We'd like a word." Min-jun's expression remained perfectly neutral. "I'm having dinner, Agent. Perhaps another time. Perhaps now." Agent Morrison's eyes shifted to Maya. "And you are?" Before Maya could answer, Min-jun spoke. "A friend. She has nothing to do with whatever fishing expedition you're on." "Maya Kim, correct?" Agent Chen said, pulling out a small notebook. "Owner of a jewelry business at the Western Avenue night market. Previously had no connection to Mr. Park until approximately 2 weeks ago." "Interesting timing, Ms. Kim." Maya's mouth went dry. "I'm just having dinner with a person of interest in an ongoing federal investigation." Agent Morrison leaned in slightly. "Ms. Kim, you seem like a smart young woman. You should know that associating with Mr. Park puts you in a difficult position. His organization is under investigation for racketeering, money laundering, and other serious charges. People connected to him tend to face consequences. Legal consequences. Are you charging me with something?" Maya asked, her voice steadier than she felt. "Not yet, but we'd like to speak with you, privately. Perhaps help you understand the situation you're getting into." Min-jun's hand moved to cover Maya's on the table. A possessive gesture, a clear message. "Ms. Kim has nothing to say to you without a lawyer present. If you'd like to continue this conversation, contact my attorney." He pulled out a business card, placed it on the table. "Now, if you'll excuse us, we were enjoying our meal." The two agents exchanged glances. Agent Chen focused on Maya. "Ms. Kim, if you ever want to talk about anything, here's my card." He placed it beside her plate. "Day or night, sometimes people in your position find they need help getting out of situations they didn't mean to enter." They left, but Maya felt their presence lingering like smoke. The other diners had definitely noticed the interaction now. By tomorrow, everyone would know the FBI was interested in Min-jun Park, and by extension, in anyone connected to him, including her. "I'm sorry," Min-jun said quietly. "That was unfortunate timing." "Is it true, what they said about the investigation?" "There's always an investigation. They've been investigating my family for 15 years. They've never made anything stick because we're careful, because we have good lawyers, because the line between legitimate business and other activities is deliberately blurred." He looked at her seriously. "But yes, Maya, you're now associated with someone the FBI watches. That's part of what you agreed to." Maya picked up Agent Chen's card, stared at the federal seal. "They want me to inform on you." "Of course they do. Everyone close to me becomes a potential source. That's the game. And if I did, if I talked to them." Min-jun's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes grew colder. "Then you'd be making a choice about where your loyalty lies. I wouldn't stop you. I don't control you, Maya. But there would be consequences. Not from me necessarily, but from the situation you'd create." "Consequences meaning?" "Meaning you'd need witness protection. Meaning your brother would need to disappear. Meaning everything you know would be destroyed and rebuilt somewhere else. under new names with new lives. His voice was gentle but inexorable. The FBI doesn't protect people out of altruism. They use them, extract what they need, then relocate them to places far from everything they know. Is that really better than this? Maya set the card down, her decision made before she'd fully consciously processed it. No. Are you sure? Think carefully, Maya. This is your exit if you want it. I'm sure. She met his eyes. I made a deal with you. For my brother, I don't break my word. Something in Minjun's expression softened. Relief, maybe, or respect. Then we should leave. This evening has accomplished its purpose. By tomorrow everyone will know you're with me, and that you chose me over the FBI. As they left the restaurant, Maya pocketed Agent Chen's card, not because she planned to use it, but because something told her having multiple options was smart. In Minjun's world, the only certainty was uncertainty. The drive back to her apartment was quiet. Maya stared out the window at the familiar streets of Koreatown, wondering how they'd look now that everything had changed. What happens next? She asked as Minjun pulled up to her building. Tomorrow I'll introduce you to some boutique owners. We'll start building your legitimate business. The better established you become in your own right, the more protection you have. He turned to face her. Maya, I need you to understand something. I'm not a good person. I've done things that would horrify you, but I protect what's mine, and you're mine now. Not as a possession, but as someone under my responsibility. That means something in my world. What does it mean in yours? Maya asked, surprising herself with her directness. Minjun was quiet for a long moment. It means I'll keep you safe. It means anyone who touches you faces me. It means... He stopped, seeming to struggle with words. It means you matter. In a life where very few things genuinely matter anymore, you matter. The raw honesty in his voice made Maya's breath catch. This wasn't the smooth businessman or the careful criminal. This was something real, vulnerable, maybe even more dangerous than anything else because it was genuine. I should go, Maya said, reaching for the door handle. Maya, Minjun's voice stopped her. Thank you for trusting me with your brother's safety, for choosing this path even though it costs you. I won't forget that. Maya nodded, unable to find words. She stepped out of the car and watched as it drove away, taillights disappearing into LA traffic. She looked up at her apartment building, at the light in her window. Tomorrow she'd wake up as someone different, someone connected to Minjun Park, someone under FBI scrutiny, someone who'd crossed lines she'd sworn never to cross. But Daniel would be safe. Her brother would finish school, build his life, have the future their mother had dreamed of. That had to be worth something. It had to be worth everything. Maya climbed the stairs to her apartment, Agent Chen's card and Minjun's protective words both weighing heavy in her pockets. She'd made her choice. Now she'd live with the consequences, whatever they turned out to be. 6 months changed everything. Maya's jewelry now sat in 3 upscale boutiques across Los Angeles. Her designs featured in a local magazine's Artists to Watch section. The medical bills were paid. Daniel thrived at UCLA, his involvement with dangerous people a fading nightmare. On paper, everything looked perfect, but Maya barely recognized herself anymore. She stood in Minjun's penthouse overlooking downtown LA, wearing an elegant dress for another business dinner, the 5th this month. Her reflection in the floor-to-ceiling windows showed someone polished, sophisticated, far removed from the girl who'd sold jewelry at night markets. You look beautiful, Minjun said, appearing behind her. 6 months of proximity had created something between them. Not quite love, not exactly friendship, but a connection that felt both inevitable and impossible. I look like someone else, Maya replied softly. His expression flickered with understanding. Is that such a terrible thing? Before Maya could answer, his phone rang. The conversation was brief, in Korean, but she'd learned to read his body language. Something was wrong. There's a problem, Minjun said, hanging up. Chen's organization is making moves against my operations. They're using your brother's old connection as justification, claiming I overstepped boundaries protecting him. Maya's blood ran cold. Daniel's in danger? No. He's protected, but this situation is escalating toward something I can't control without significant consequences. Minjun moved to the window, his shoulders tense. I have 2 options. Retaliate and start a conflict that puts everyone at risk, including you. Or what? Or I cooperate with the FBI, give them what they want on Chen's organization in exchange for immunity for my people. He turned to face her. But that means testifying, going into protection temporarily, restructuring everything I've built. Maya understood what he wasn't saying. It means leaving this life behind. Yes, his voice was quiet. I've been considering it for months. Since you walked into my world and reminded me that other paths exist, paths where I'm not constantly calculating threats, protecting territory, living in moral gray spaces that consume whatever good intentions I started with, you'd give up your empire. For what? For the possibility of being someone different, someone who could deserve. He stopped, the unfinished sentence hanging between them. Maya's heart ached. Minjun, I'm tired, Maya. Tired of the violence, the paranoia, the weight of maintaining power through fear. I'm 32 years old and I've never had a normal conversation without calculating ulterior motives. Except with you. He stepped closer. You make me remember who I wanted to be before this life claimed me. What happens to Daniel if you cooperate with the FBI? He stays protected. Part of my deal includes immunity for him. Full protection. He finishes school. Lives normally. You both do. And you? I testify. Serve maybe 2 years for cooperation, then start over somewhere new, far from this world. His eyes held hers. Would you consider starting over too? Not with me necessarily, but near me, building something real. Something honest. The offer terrified and tempted her equally. I don't know if I can trust any of this. If this is real, or just another manipulation. It's real. Minjun's voice cracked slightly. For the first time in 15 years, something in my life is completely real. You are. What I feel for you is the possibility of becoming someone worthy of that feeling. That's real too. Maya thought about the past 6 months. The dinners, the conversations, the moments when Minjun's carefully constructed facade cracked, and she saw the lonely, damaged person underneath. She thought about her mother's words. Stand up for what's right, even when it's hard. Maybe redemption was right. Maybe second chances were right. Maybe breaking cycles of violence and fear was the rightest thing of all. Okay, she whispered. Let's do it. Let's break this cycle together. 3 years later, the small gallery in Portland, Oregon displayed Maya Kim's jewelry collection. Her first solo exhibition. Critics praised her authentic voice and cultural synthesis. She'd rebuilt her business legitimately, slowly, honestly. Daniel graduated UCLA and worked at a tech company in Seattle. Safe, free, whole. Maya was arranging a display when the gallery door opened. She turned and froze. Minjun Park stood in the entrance, wearing jeans and a simple jacket. No expensive suit. No dangerous aura, just a man, looking nervous and hopeful. I heard you were showing here, he said quietly. I hope it's okay that I came. He'd served 18 months, emerged with a clean record thanks to his cooperation. She'd followed his case from a distance, never visiting but never forgetting. It's okay, Maya said, her heart racing. How have you been? Learning to be normal. It's harder than it sounds. He smiled, genuinely, without calculation. I manage a small import business now. Actually legitimate this time. It's boring. I love it. They talked for an hour, carefully, like people navigating new terrain. No promises, no grand declarations, just two people who'd survived darkness together, trying to figure out if they could exist in the light. I don't know if we can have something real, Maya admitted as he prepared to leave. After everything, we don't have to know yet, Minjun replied. We just have to be willing to try, honestly, without the weight of who we were. He left his new number. No pressure, no expectations, just possibility. Maya stood alone in her gallery, surrounded by art she'd created through pain and growth. She didn't know what came next, but for the first time in years, she wasn't afraid of the answer. Some cycles broke, some people changed, some stories got second chances. Maybe theirs would be one of them.